Hello and welcome to another episode here on my channel. My name is ChaosMole and today I will go through the 4 classes and subclasses of the closed beta in Warhammer 40k Darktide. Keep in mind I was already able to play the game since Tuesday before the closed beta started, thanks to Fatshark, so I can already tell you a little bit more about the classes, and what we'll be doing here in this video is pretty simple. We will go through each and every class, looking at their abilities, then I will also show you a little bit of gameplay for the class and tell you, well, how this class feels. It's actually pretty simple. So with that said, let's jump right into it, shall we? So the first one is the Veteran Sharpshooter. The Veteran Sharpshooter is, well, I would definitely say the range class in this game. You can see their ability right here. This is Volley Fire, which is entering you into a range stance, and it also deals 50% more increased range damage. Also very important, you can see nearby elites and special enemies even through walls and through multiple levels. So this is very important when you are fighting against a horde of enemies and there are so many bodies on the screen that you basically just can pick out the really dangerous enemies to your group. They are iconic abilities, which by the way you can switch out later on. You can unlock more and more passives and then you can switch them out depending on for your needs. If you have already played Vermintide 2, you pretty much know what you are in for. And the first one is make every shot count, which is increasing the damage by 15% when hitting an enemy's weak spot. Be prepared, increase ammo reserves of all ranged weapons by 75%. And then their blitz ability, which is basically the G button, is the frag grenade. Fragmentation grenades, I mean, duh. And everyone has an aura. That is also very important to note, that basically everyone has like something which supports the team, and you are starting out with the scavenger hunt. You and your allies in coherency gain a small amount of ammo whenever any of you kill an elite enemy. And the unique weapons only you can use as a veteran sharpshooter is the combat shovel, which doesn't look like that, by the way, they are showing in the picture, and plasma gun. You do not start with those weapons though. You're starting with a shovel, but you're not starting with a plasma gun. You are just starting with a normal las rifle. So let's talk a little bit about the gameplay. And the gameplay is pretty simple. You are the guy or the woman who stands in the background and gives support fire. You pick out the dangerous enemies before they can even reach your group, and you stay away from the enemy as much as possible. And you have the highest ammo count, like where players have between 30 and 300 shots, depending on which weapon they're using. The veteran sharpshooter has over 600. That should give you a pretty good idea what you were doing with this class. Like, you are popping headshots. You are there to take out, as I said, the dangerous enemies. You have your fragmentation grenade. That doesn't mean you are useless in a melee fight. Like, your shovel does a good amount of damage, but it's not as effective. In reality, you need sometimes 2 attacks to kill like a normal enemy. Again, this works pretty well when you are fighting against monster hordes because your ammunition is just too important, right, to waste it on hordes and hordes of enemies, so you're going in with a melee weapon. But this is not your normal objective. Also very important with the las gun at the beginning, the faster you shoot, the more the accuracy of that weapon goes down. So what you are trying to do is you are trying to find like a attack cadence where you are slowly shooting away and try to hit the weak spots, mostly heads. Like for most enemies, it's mostly heads. It's pretty simple. Or what's also very important, because you are using a las gun at the beginning, like a laser rifle, you can go through most of the armor of the enemies. So again, very important against elite fighters who are heavily armored, or like even like special enemies who have like a lot of armor. So if you are somebody who likes to kick back, who likes to stand in the background and shoot the enemy from afar, This is your class. And that brings us already to the next one, and that is the Zealot. And the Zealot is the complete opposite of the Sharpshooter. Like seriously, where the Sharpshooter is the sniper, is the range fighter, the Zealot preacher is in the midst of it. You are a berserker. You are in melee range, and you are just decimating the enemies. And your ability is chastise the wicked. The preacher dashes forward or towards the targeted enemy, replenishing all toughness, which is your energy shield. I will most of the time refer to shields to this, but it's called toughness. It's just a thing in my head. I'm sorry for that. Increasing the damage of your next melee hit by percentages, making it a guaranteed critical hit. So I think it's 50 right now, if I'm not mistaken. And it is also a guaranteed critical hit. So you want to do this. What you basically want to do is you want to charge to one of the elite enemies or one of the special enemies and then just one-shot them with a melee ability. That's what you want to do. And your iconic abilities are Martyrdom. For each 50 missing health, you gain 5 increased damage, stacks up to 13 times. Again, you're a berserker class, so the more you're wounded, the more dire your situation goes, the more powerful you become. Then you have Until Death. Every 90 seconds, taking damage that would kill you, gain invulnerability for 5 seconds, and Swift Exorcism increases your melee attack speed by 10%. So if this wasn't already like a giveaway that you are like the melee range fighter, melee fighter, then this is clearly it, right? You are in the midst of it. And later on, you will get some iconic abilities you can combine with Until Death. So as long as you are in Until Death, you are getting even stronger, or you are starting to heal yourself through the damage you are dealing while you are in the Until Death stance. So again, you are literally a berserker. Your Blitz ability is the Sturm Grenade, and which is a stun grenade. Like it's literally a stun grenade, which also does damage, which is kind of cool. And your aura is the Emperor's Will. Allies in coherency take 10% reduced toughness damage. Again, your energy shield. So that is very important. And yes, that also works for you. Your unique weapon is the 200 Thunder Weapon and Flamers. Now, unfortunately, you are starting with none of those items. You are starting with an axe, like just a normal metal axe, and an auto pistol. Now, it is called an auto pistol, but I can definitely tell you it's not. It's an SMG. It's a fast firing SMG which burns through your ammunition. You might think, oh, look at that. I have over 300 shots for my weapon. Unfortunately, your weapon goes bah, empty, bah, empty, bah, empty. Like you're just burning through that ammunition. And so what you want to do is you want to be as close as possible with that weapon, because it's an SMG. Like your accuracy with that weapon in range and anything which is further away than 10 to 50 meters, you are hitting jack shit. Like, sorry, it's not your best weapon for that. So even with your range weapon, you want to be pretty up close. Okay, so why would I use the range weapon? There are some enemies where you just don't want to be too close. Even as a melee fighter, there are some enemies, and like boss enemies in particular, which are like for the mission where you have to kill like a specific boss, where you really just don't want to be in melee range at a certain moment in the fight. And that is the best way, where you can just take a few steps back and use a ranged weapon. But again, you're a melee berserker, you are in the midst of it. Be careful. With that said, it's this, I'm a berserker, and you really fall in that berserker feeling for the class. It's this, yes, more killing, more stabbing, more blood, yes! Till you realize, oh shoot, I'm in a bad position. I'm hurting. I'm getting a little bit too much damage here. Like, getting some damage is fine. That's what your class is built on, right? But being in a bad position, not getting out of there, that is really bad, because you are still not a tank. You are a melee DPS fighter. So you can take a beating, but not as much as you like. So keep that in mind, just saying. All right? With that said, let's jump into the Psyker and the Psykinetic, which is basically the Mage. And a quick note before we are jumping in here. If you have played the Bright Wizard in Vermintide 1 and 2, you pretty much know what you are getting yourself into. Yeah. But we will get to that. So first, your ability is the Psykinetic Wrath. Reset the perils of the warp meter to 0, which is basically your instability meter from Vermintide, right? When you play the Bright Wizard. It's the same thing here, it's just called peril. And staggers the enemy in front of the Psyker. So stagger might not be the right word I would be using here for this. It's literally stunning everyone, and they are lying on the ground and they are like, oh, help, right? And you can just do unspeakable things to them. And again, very important, it resets your peril meter. Now, your iconic abilities are Warp Siphon, killing an enemy with Brain Burst, which is your G ability, but we will get to that in a second. Earns you Warp Charge. Each fragment stored increases the damage you inflict by 3%. Warp charges are retained for 20 seconds, and you can store up to 4 warp charges at once. We will talk about that combination when we are talking about the gameplay here. Inner Tranquility reduces peril generated by 10%. Doesn't do as much as you hope, at least not in the beta. Again, your Blitz ability, which is the G ability, right, is the Brain Burst. Target an enemy after a short duration. This ability deals high amount of damage to the target. You see, basically, when you are targeting an enemy, you see like 2 bars on the side filling up, and when they are reaching 100%, you are zapping the enemy with a lightning strike. And your aura is the Kinetic Presence. Allies in Coherency gain 10% increased damage against elite enemies. And your unique weapons is the Force Sword, which you can also power up with your abilities, and the Force Staff. So you are starting with the sword, but you're not starting with the staff. And this is where it gets really interesting and why we have to talk about this. So when you are in the gameplay, you have a ranged weapon. Believe it or not, you have a pistol. Yes, they gave you something else than just your staff. And you might think, oh wow, that's just a 5-shot pistol. What is that? It has a super long reload animation. Why would I use that thing? Because it's super powerful. It is super duper powerful. Like, it goes straight through enemies. It does a lot of damage against bigger enemies. Like, it's really, really strong. Do not underestimate that pistol. Of course, you can go a little bit into melee range, but don't do it too often. You are still a mage. You are still pretty squishy. Okay? So keep that in mind when you are doing that. But let's talk about the Brain Burst and how you're utilizing this. So you are trying to do the Brain Burst mostly against elite and special units, right? Not against the small ones. It's a waste. And you are trying to get more and more powerful, and you try to manage your peril. And again, if you are reaching 100% peril, you blow yourself up. exactly like it works in Vermintide, which is kind of cool. Like, I have to say, of all the characters I have been playing in the closed beta, the Psyker was the most interesting one, and the one which really needed a little bit of thinking, because you had to manage melee range, you had to manage your pistol, and you had to manage your peril, but also getting stronger so that you can take out a lead or special monsters immediately, right? Like, you can literally make like some special monsters pop with one brain burst, which is really, really powerful for your team, right? And now let's talk about the last one, and that is the Ogre. A quick note here. Unfortunately, for the Ogre, I do not have any gameplay. There was a little bit of a mix-up, and I cannot show you any gameplay, but I can talk about it. But let's first go through the abilities, and then we will talk about the Skullbreaker. So, Bull Rush is a ferocious charge. What they're not telling you is, interestingly enough, that when you are charging through the enemies, you are also like knocking them down. They're lying on the ground for a few seconds and they're like, oh, help me, please don't kill me, I'm vulnerable right now, right? So they're not telling that, but that is what you're doing. Be careful, you can do this ability quite often. That means you are somebody who can just charge in and you can put yourself in a bad position. So be careful about it. Their iconic abilities is Excessive Force, increasing melee stagger strength by 25%. So basically, all of your melee attacks will stagger the enemy. They will stumble a little bit backwards, and they're like, whoa, don't hit me like that, right? And then you have Loyal Protector. Being damaged while reviving or assisting an ally is no longer interrupting you. So, yes, that is true. So you can just revive people even if you're getting attacked. But it seems like also, as long as you have like your energy shields with the other classes, you can still kind of revive. Like, it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. So if you want to make absolutely sure that you're getting revived without interruption, let the Ogre do it. Alright? Thick Skin reduces toughness damage taken by 20% and reduces damage taken by another 20%. So if you haven't realized it yet, yes, this is the tank. You're the tank of the group, and you want to stand in the front. But you want to, and this is where it gets really tricky, and we will talk about that when we are talking about the gameplay. There is a little bit more to it, but you are definitely the tank of the group. Now let's talk about the Blitz ability, which is the grenade box, throwing the entire box of grenades with great strength and enthusiasm, single target high damage attack. Yeah, so it's basically like you're throwing literally a box of grenade, but you have to target the enemy. So it's not an AoE damage, it's like a single burst attack you can do, right? So keep that in mind. And your aura is Intimidating Presence, increases the heavy melee attack damage of allies in coherency by 10%. So if you were playing the Preacher, which was the melee DPS, you want to stay as close as possible to the Skullbreaker because you get 10% more melee attack. And your unique weapon is the Grenadier Gauntlets, which you are not starting with. You are literally starting with a pipe as a melee attack and a double-barreled shotgun. That's what you were starting with. And again, so let's talk about the gameplay. As I said, unfortunately, I don't have any gameplay to show, but I can talk a little bit longer about this. So you are standing in the front, you are the tank. Be mindful though, this is kind of tricky because you are a big guy. Ogres are not small. I know that like most people play this game and the people who are standing in the front do like cover. They're like squatting down, right, so that other people can shoot over them. With the Ogre, doesn't make any sense. You are still bigger than everyone else, and you are standing directly in front of them. So what you want to do is, as an Ogre, you want to position yourself just right so that you can take, still like being the tank of the group, but you can give all your other players the chance of like just having a straight line where they can shoot down. Of course, the other players also have to position themselves. It's not just the thing you have to do, but keep that in mind. You are big and nobody can shoot above you. And as I said, you are the tank. You will not do the most damage, but you can slow down the enemy. And if you are shooting a special or an elite unit with your double barrel shotgun, they will probably not survive this. Yeah, if it's not like a boss enemy, they will probably not survive it, because that's how much damage it does. It is a murder weapon. Keep in mind, you don't have that much ammunition with it, so be careful of that. And you will mostly use your melee weapon. Also, your melee weapon is wide. You have a wide swing. Like, of all the available classes, I would say you have the biggest cleave with the Ogre. And again, you are the bulwark of the group, right? You're the front and center, and when you fall, it will get a little bit troublesome for the team. Like, we actually had it happen that our Ogre sometimes was dying because we got overwhelmed, we positioned ourselves bad, or we were splitting up a little bit, like beginner errors, right? And the group immediately noticed that. Like, the moment our Ogre was not nearby, everything felt much more dangerous to the team. Because the Ogre is just such a crazy meat shield, and you are that important to the group. So keep that in mind. But those are the 4 classes and subclasses you can play in the Warhammer 40k Darktide Closed Beta. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see much more Darktide videos, which are already live on the channel and which are also coming, because as I said, I was actually able to play and record the game since Tuesday, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We are also doing live streams here. If you are seeing this on Friday and you still need a beta key for Warhammer 40k Darktide, well, Fatshark was also nice enough to give us a few keys to give away, and we should hopefully stream right now here in the channel. And we're doing also some giveaways, so just jump into the live stream here on YouTube, and you can always find us from Monday to Friday. Well, this weekend I will definitely play some Darktide, so I will be live, but normally Monday to Friday starting at 8 AM ET, which is 1 PM UK time and 2 PM Central European time here on YouTube. And we are doing also a lot of reaction videos and guides like Darktide here on the channel. The Emperor protects. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I see you next time. Stay safe. Bye bye.